All right, so we're gonna do a real quick demo on the Savvi platform about using our new data room feature and what you can do with that, how to access it, and what it's about. So first thing I'm going to show is just creating a data room from scratch that's not tied to any workflow. It's not tied to any transaction. And this is something that you're going to be able to use whenever you want. You can create as many of these as you'd like. So the way that you access that, you go into our standard workflow library. If you just search for data room, then one of the options that's going to come up is going to be create a data room. This is the one you want to use. It's not share a data room. All that does is shares a link to your entire file cabinet. So that is not what you're looking for. You're looking for create a data room, and we'll show you why that's going to be different and important here just a second, but we're going to hop in there. First thing it's going to ask you is, do you want a basic or a comprehensive data room? So what a basic data room is it's just going to create a room that you can populate with whatever you want, but it's not going to have anything pre-populated. There's nothing going to be in there for the data room. So that is if you're just going to want to share one folder or a couple documents with somebody with this data room, you're going to want to select basic. If you want to basically share all of your corporate information, that's going to be the more comprehensive data room. And that's where, depending on what the purpose of this data room is that, you'll select which one you want. If you're doing a financing with somebody and the investors are going to say, hey, I just want to see all of your relevant legal data for due diligence purposes, typically that's where the comprehensive data room comes into play. That is going to be for for that financing where somebody's asking for all of your relevant legal data. Right now, why don't we just go ahead and click basic and show you what that looks like so that you can, we'll start there and then I'll show you a more comprehensive data room in just a second. But so we select basic and hit next task. What it's done is as soon as we close that assessment, it has created this data room, but we're going to go through the task because sometimes whatever information you put in the actual tasks is going to show up in the data room. And so sometimes there's important information there. Like when you're doing the comprehensive data room, this next task is going to be important because it'll ask for information that's, more comprehensive information. In this case, this basic data room is just asking for, confirm high level company information. And then it's going to ask, do you want to include any specific links at the outset of the data room? And so this is where you can link to external links. So if you have your pitch deck, you want to link to, you can include a link to that. I'm just going to include a random link here. But if you want to, and you can add as many as you want, if you want to link to a specific folder of your file cabinet, you'd be able to select that here, select your folder. I'm going to select my organizational documents folder. I'm going to add that folder link and it's going to pre-populate the label. I can call it something different if I want, but so you can build this data room with any links that you want. It's going to ask, do you have information for a specific financing? If this is going to be a data room for a financing, then you can select the financing that you've already, if you've already created, authorized a financing on your account, then you can select that financing. And then it will pull in information about that financing. In this case, I'm going to leave it blank, see if we can do that. And then it's asking about, the directors of the company. So I hit review. Let's see, we do need to select the financing in this case. So I'm going to select that financing and we're going to go ahead and submit this task. So what it's going to do is it's going to take that information that we put into this task questionnaire and it's going to be that information is going to be populated in the data room. So really quick, you can see the data room right now, and we're going to go ahead and pull that up. It's just empty. But if I go ahead and submit this task, I hit finalize, then that data room will get all that information that we just put in, when we go to refresh this data room, it should now show up. So that information that we put into there about the financing and about directors and about the company information, the address, the term sheet that was connected to the financing, those links that we put in, all of those are now showing up in the data room. And so the data room gets created as soon as you finalize the assessment, but information is not going to, that is relevant to tasks is not going to show up there until you submit those tasks. Now, you don't have to submit the tasks to use the data room or to share the data room. It's just going to show up empty. And you can always add more stuff. So even before you've submitted any tasks, you can go add more links to an empty data room. You can add whatever documents you want. And you can even remove tables. So if there's a table in here that gets added from a task and you're like, I don't want that information to be available or visible to whoever's accessing this data room, like maybe we don't want to share this financing information, you can always remove the table. One thing that always gets added that I always like to remove anyways is this data room information. This is information that the task collected to create the data room, but it's not actually relevant information you want to share. So I'll remove that table. Maybe I don't want to share the information about my directors, so I remove that. So you're very customizable. One thing very important whenever you're using this is the name of the data room gets called the name of the task plus the date, or the whatever the workflow is plus the date. And so we use the create a data room workflow. So the name of the data room is create a data room plus today's date. So usually you'll want to come in and change this. If this is a financing data room that you're going to be using, we call it the Series A financing data room, whatever you want that to be. And that's going to be what it shows up as when you share it. If you want to look at anytime you make a change, the data, it will automatically save it to the data room. And so if you remove a table, you can't unremove it. It's saved. If you add a document, it's automatically as soon as you hit add document, it's now added to the data room, but you can always go remove it. But just keep in mind, there's no like edit state for the data room. It is always, whatever you've added is always live. So as soon as you hit add link and submit that, it's added to the live data room. So anybody with the data room's link will be, when they refresh, they'll see anything new you've added. So if we want to preview the data room, just everything except for this edit data room button is going to be what people are viewing in the data room. The shared links, the documents, the data, they will not see these tabs or this button, but this is what they're seeing. So let's go back to the edit state. One thing that, we've renamed it. You can add a document. Now you can upload a file that's not in your data room, that's not in your file cabinet, or you can select a file from your file cabinet. So I select add, and now that added that certificate of incorporation. I can move things around. If I want them displayed in a specific order, you can always move those around. If I want to add a new link, I can always add that. So new link, as many links as you want. We already showed that within the questionnaire, you can link to a folder. You can also do that from this add links view. So share a document folder from your file cabinet. You can select one of these and just add folder link. You can do a high level folder, a subfolder, whatever you want. You can rename it, but you go add that, and these are the links that people are going to see. What it looks like if somebody's accessing a link. So I'm actually going to hop over to a comprehensive data room that I built. So I built this data room instead of selecting basic, I selected comprehensive. And really the only difference is that in that comprehensive data room, now it's pulling in all of my reports, my state registrations, my equity reports, my options, my employee summary, my contractors. So it's pulling in a more comprehensive data into the data room. The only way to get data in this middle section is through the task itself. And so if you want that basic data room where you're not showing any of these, the task isn't going to ask for any of this information. But when we select comprehensive, the task itself is going to pull in these reports, and then that's why it's going to be able to be visible in the data room itself. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's how we get this comprehensive data pulled into the comprehensive data room, is the task is pulling it in, and we hit submit on that task, it'll pull in this information. One thing that is very important to understand in data rooms, you as the admin on this account, whoever is the admin, will be able to go into a data room and edit the sharing properties. So there are 3 types of sharing states. One is it's just completely open. In this case, it's open, and that means anybody with the link can get access to the data room. The other type is, well, there's 4 states. One is open with the link. One is closed, meaning nobody can get access to it even with the link, which usually, you can close a room after the transaction's closed and you don't want anybody else poking in around. That's where closed room is relevant. The other state is you can allow anybody with the link to access it, but they have to sign in. So that's where you do required sign in. And if I select that, now it is open, sign in, but sign in is required. And you can invite somebody, but you don't have to have an invite to access it. You just have to sign in. That is helpful because of this access logs feature. So we are tracking anybody who accesses the data room. You're going to be able to view, as the admin, you can view who has accessed it, how many times they've accessed it, when is their most recent access. If they've logged in, then you're not ever going to have this anonymous list right here. If it's open without sign-in required, if sign-in is optional, then anybody can use the link. They'll access it, and it's just going to say some anonymous person visited it. But when you have sign-in required, you're going to be able to see an email and when they visited. The last state or option for sharing is requiring an invite. And this is where you would have to invite them through this add user function. You would select their email, and then it will send an email to them saying you can access this data room, but then they'll have to sign in, and the sign in will check that whatever email they're using to sign in has been added to this user list. So that's the invite only feature. Right now, most of the data rooms we're using are open, but you can limit it if you'd like to added users, or you can do the sign in required just so that your access log doesn't show anonymous. You can keep track of who's accessing it. So those are the different states that you can select. That is the sharing. We've talked about the access logs. Where can you find the data rooms after you've created a data room? So first of all, you can go to the data room. You just open it here and it'll pull up the data room in a new tab. Or you can just copy that data room link and email it to somebody. That's currently, unless you can select add user, and then it will send them an email inviting them to access, or you can just copy the link. So those are the 2 ways you share access to the data room, is you go add user or copy link and just email it to them. So those are how you share the data room with other people. Now, from your Savvi account, where can you find your data rooms? Right now, it is just going to be available if you go to your tasks. That is where it's going to show up. This data room report from today, if I go into that, that's going to take me to that data room. So that is right now where you can access data rooms. You have to go pull up the tasks where the data room was created. So that's it for now. We are going to be adding the ability to search for data, just a data room view where you can see all of the data rooms you've created, and it will show the data rooms by their name, and you can access it that way. But right now you have to access it through the task list and pull up your task history, pull up the data room task, and access it that way. So I pull it up here, and it's going to be visible here on the right side. you can go to room, and then that's where you can edit it further, edit data room, view the sharing, etc. So that's how you access a data room. I do want to show really quick. We created our other data rooms by going to the workflow library and searching for create a data room workflow. Some workflows will just create a data room as part of that transaction. The primary ones that this is turned on for are the authorizing financing transactions. So if you are going to be doing a convertible financing, when you go to authorize your convertible financing, this is where it's going to ask you, okay, name the fundraising, what type of fundraising are you doing? What type of term sheet are you doing? You go and generate the tasks for this financing. It's going to ask you to, sign the board consent and create a term sheet for it. This task is one of those that automatically will create a data room that you can use, that you can then share with investors in this convertible financing. So as you can see, as soon as I finalized that initial workflow assessment, it created a room. Now, if I go to that room in a new tab, it's going to be pretty empty. It has the information about that fundraising that I put in to the initial assessment, has information about the company, but it won't have any links. It doesn't have any documents. As I go through and finalize these other tasks, the board consent and the term sheet tasks, when those get signed and finalized, they will get added to the data room. Sorry, this is the data room. So it'll get added to the documents of the data room because they are documents signed and generated from a task in this workflow, in this transaction. So that is important to know. Any information about that you put into the board consent or the term sheet will then get added to the data room. But that's it. Nothing else will be added. So if you do want to share, legal information with the investors, then you'll have to add those folders on this right-hand side. So my, org docs plus board consents, I add that link, and then they can review that if you want to give them access to that. And so you can, this data room is going to be created for the authorized convertible financing, authorized preferred stock financing. Those are the only other scenarios where it's going to be created. Otherwise, the only way to create a data room right now is create a data room workflow that we saw that was the first one I demoed. I go in here, I rename this to something that makes sense. And okay, this is my data room for this convertible financing. I can then share it with an investor, or I can, and require sign in or invite only, or I can just copy the link and share it with anybody who's interested. And, that's where, if you just want to share the term sheet with somebody and information about the financing, this is a really easy way to do that. You can say, hey, I'm going to give you a link that's going to share access, that's going to share my data room, which has my term sheet and any other relevant information I want to share with you. And that's where you could add your pitch deck here, add your pitch deck, a link to your pitch deck, add the term sheet. And that's just your initial data room for investors. Very helpful in that way. If you want it to be more comprehensive, where you're sharing more stuff like your org docs and your board consents, then again, add as much as you want. But again, that is just showing that the authorized convertible financing task will create a data room for your financing. If you want to use it, you don't have to, but it'll create that for you to use. Other than that, go to create a data room. You can create a basic one, create a comprehensive one, edit it, customize it, whatever you need to do. And that is the data room functionality right now. One thing I will point out that is nice between Savvi's data room and other data rooms that people are using is that you don't have to download any documents from your file cabinet, copy them over to a new Google Drive, copy them over to a new folder that is just going to be for this financing. You're able to control what documents and folders people can view in a data room without having to duplicate anything. This is great because it keeps all of your files, just one copy of all your files, one corporate record, one system of record, which is your Savvi account. And then you can create duplicate views, create as many views or data rooms or rooms as you want based on, what you want to do. And that way you can have a financing data room. You might have a data room for customers that like, hey, here's relevant information about, using Savvi. Here's my marketing information. You can create data rooms for sharing information with different people in different ways. And it's a really cool tool. But anyway, that is the data room function. Okay, the next thing I want to show here is what does it actually look like to access a data room from getting a link, to that you've sent them, or if they've got an email through adding users. So let me go ahead and copy this data room link for my data room 2021 Series C data room. So I'm going to open up an incognito window. And I go ahead and copy that link. This is what it looks like. It's, you can see the name of the room. You've got those documents. You've got that information that was added to it. You've got these external links. So let's say I'm in this data room and I want to access these org docs, this folder that was linked. What does that look like? So it will pull up just that folder itself that has these documents. You can preview those documents and look at them. So that's that experience. The other thing I want to show is what if you require sign-in? What is that experience like? So I'm going to go back to my data room and I'm going to require sign-in. So next, let's say I go copy this data room link. And I'm going to go to an incognito window, copy that link in. This room requires you to be logged in to view. Please sign in to be allowed access. So I go click sign in. And one thing that we'll note is that you don't have to have a Savvi account to log in. You can actually just log in with Google. And then the purpose of this is just so that we can keep track of who's accessing it and that you're gating it to an actual person. They're not just going to put in, 1234@1234.com. They're actually going to have to verify that it's a real email. So we log in. I'm going to, just log in really quick here. Okay. And now that I've logged in, signed in through Gmail, I get access to that data room that we were just looking at. So everything's the same. And now if we go back to my access logs, so if I refresh on my access logs over here, you can see it'll be able to pull up the who has visited anonymous. So that was 1241. That was the one I accessed with just recently. And should be able to pull up my access log. For some reason, it's not refreshed yet, but okay, I just refreshed and it did show up that login from the Google Drive login that was through the incognito sign in. So I just needed to refresh on that. Wanted to show a few other things really quick. If you wanted to share your entire file cabinet with somebody, when you've created a room, and so let's say, for example, you're doing this authorized convertible financing. This is the convertible financing data room that was created when we submitted this task. It's empty right now because we haven't signed the term sheet or the board consent there. But let's say I do want to give somebody full access to my file cabinet, everything that's in there. When I go to share document folder, I don't select any of these. I just select add folder link because it's just going to add this file cabinet link. So I select add folder link, and then they will be able to get access to the entire file cabinet, all of your folders that are in there, all of your documents that are in your file cabinet. So just wanted to show that really quick. If you do want to just quickly share your entire file cabinet in a data room, that's the way you do that. And yeah, I think that might be it. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody.